What's up, bitches?
Let's talk about crime.
What's up, bitches?
Hello.
Hi. We're here. Episode 5. Talking about a girl this time. The first girl. Why do you not respond when I speak? Anyways, anything new? You want anything new? If not, we'll just jump right into it.
Not really.
We're very boring people, obviously. We'll just get into it. We are talking about Christa Pike. I will say that this was brought up to me by Sierra. She actually sent me was it a TikTok? Or an Instagram?
It's this bitch. Okay.
Yeah, so we're doing this girl. You sent me a TikTok or an Instagram about her story. So yes, so we're talking about Christa Pike. This is a 1995 murder. It happened on January 12th. It was the murder of Colleen Slemmer by Christa Pike. And this happened in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a little weird because we have some connections to Knoxville. That's all I'm going to say. So we're going to get into just like a little bit of background, a tiny smidgen of background about Colleen, and then most of it will be about Christa. But I always like to give just a little bit about, or, what I can find about the victim. Colleen Slemmer was born September 20th, 1975 in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. She was raised by her mother and her stepfather, and she also had a sister. At the time that this murder happened, she was 19 years old and she was attending a Job Corps program in Knoxville and she was trying to study computers. And for those of you who don't know what Job Corps is, like this resonates really a lot with me because in 95, I was in middle school and getting ready, I think I was in 7th grade. And this resonates with me because I actually knew people who were going into Job Corps. And for a long time when I was younger, I thought Job Corps was military because it's Job Corps because it's CORP, but it's not. What it was is it's a program that was put into place to help people who basically couldn't go to college, but they could go in and enroll. Like low income people could go in and enroll and they could learn how to do things like computers. You could be a nursing assistant. You could be culinary arts. It's like all these different things that you can do without having to actually go to college. But it kind of is like a college. This particular Job Corps program, they actually had dorms. So it was very much like a college. However, typically people went there if they could not afford to go to college. So I don't even know if Job Corps is still around, but I remember graduating or not graduating. I was like in senior year and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And my mom wanted me to go to school and I was like, but what am I going to do? And I remember talking to a bunch of my friends and I'm like, dude, go to Job Corps. I was very close to trying to apply to get into Job Corps. I ended up going to school for about a year to be a a kindergarten teacher, which thank the Lord I didn't do because I don't think I could handle it now. But then I got pregnant with Sierra, so I had to, it didn't work out. It didn't work out.
You're welcome.
But then I went back to school when both my kids were younger and I got a psych degree, which much more up my alley. So that's Colleen Slemmer. Now, Christa Pike was born March 10th, 1976 in West Virginia. Her parents were Carissa Hansen and Emil Glenn Pike. They were married for 2 years, but it ends for a year. They break up, they divorce, whatever, due to Carissa cheating. So the mom cheated, but then they get back together and they stay married for another 2 years. And then after that, she attempts suicide. So they had a very rocky marriage, which in turn, you got to relate it somehow, some way to probably had a negative impact on Christa Pike as well. Christa's mom was a partier. She spent most of her time actually partying. She was doing drugs. She was drinking. And a prime example of how stellar of a mom she was, Christa, when she was a toddler, was having seizures. Her mom chose to stay partying instead of taking care of her. Now, she was taken care of by her grandmother a lot, but her mom was in and out, didn't really care about having a child. Now, her father, on the other hand, wanted nothing to do with her at all. So she had a mom who cared more about partying than she did about caring for her daughter. And then she had a dad who was like, fuck it, peace out. I don't care. So this all leads up to her being raised by her grandmother for her younger years. So her grandmother takes over. And I It's her maternal grandmother. So it's her mom's mom. Now, at the age of 12, her grandma passes away. Christa does attempt suicide at one point, and to be honest with you, nobody really gives a shit and nobody tries to help her. So she's 12 years old. Her grandma passes away. That was like her one person in her life that was a constant. She passes away. She doesn't know how to handle. She tries to commit suicide. And it's like, meh, okay. Like, what kind of parents, what kind of a parent are you if you can't give a shit about your child? It just drives me nuts. It reminds me very much of Casey Anthony. So it's a very Casey Anthony case, and it fucking blows my goddamn mind. So Christa ends up moving in with her mom after her grandma passes away. And in her early teen years, her mom introduces her to marijuana, and she starts smoking marijuana with her mom. They're, hanging out. They kind of party together. It gets to a point where it's not working out for her. So her dad, who wants nothing to do with her, says, yeah, you can come live with me. Now, her dad has a whole ass other family. He's married. He has other kids. She ends up moving in with her dad and his family. But she is sent away because one of her half sisters accuses her of molestation. Okay, so she gets kicked out the house. Also, during her childhood with her mom, she had to deal with her mom's boyfriends, and they were pretty abusive. And one in particular actually punched her in the face.
Damn.
I'm going to tell you straight up right now, I would fucking murder my boyfriend if he punched my daughter in her face. Like, I'm sorry. Like, first of all, not your child. Not that you should ever punch your own child in the face. But if there's ever a time to warrant punching your child in the face, it's got to be your child. And number two, that's my child, and you abusive piece of shit. And obviously, if he's punching her in the face, he's obviously abusing the mom too. That's just a given. Christa actually does make claims, like, as she got older, that she had been molested and sexually assaulted. Okay. Now, family members of hers actually say that's not true. She's a pathological liar. I'm not going to speak on anything other than she had a shitty fucking life. She had an abusive mom, abusive dad, abusive boyfriends. I would believe 100% that she was sexually abused at some point in her life. And for the family members who sit there and say, no, she's a pathological liar, shame on you. Because
you also weren't there.
Right. You weren't there. You didn't help. You didn't do all the things you should do. And for you to look at somebody and tell them that they're lying because you think they're lying doesn't bode very well. And no, I'm not standing up for Christa Pike. Just so everybody knows, she did a really fucking awful thing. So I'm just trying to give the whole scenario background because this story has a very interesting ending. That's all I'm going to say. So supposedly, at some point, Christa gets a phone call from some dude, and that guy apparently threatened to rape her, like as she was like in her, middle school age or whatever. So her response to this, okay, so I'm in middle school, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. If somebody calls me and threatens to rape me, one, in my household, I would have gone to my brother. And I would have been like, hey, guy, let's gather some friends and let's go talk to this dude. That's what my response would be. I probably would have told my parents, but I don't know. In her situation, she didn't really have anybody to turn to. So she goes and gets her friends. They go find the guy and they beat him with a stick in the parking lot. To be honest with you, I'm not mad at that because I can tell you, I don't know how I would handle it, but growing up, I wasn't the nicest person. I wasn't a bully, but I wasn't the nicest person. And even to this day, I stand up for myself. I dig my fucking heels in and I stand up for myself. So, if you're going to threaten to rape me, then we're going to have a problem, period. But that kind of leads into the fact that she obviously wasn't afraid of doing bad things. She does end up dropping out of high school. And after she drops out of high school, she gets arrested for shoplifting. Now, she does 1 month in juvenile detention. Well, while she's there, she's talking to the corrections officers and stuff in the juvenile detention center. And they're looking at her like, listen, this could be a lot worse, which we all know how I feel about juvie. It's really not worth it, but whatever. And they're telling her listen, you could do better. Here are some options for you. They mention Job Corps. They explain to her what Job Corps is. So she gets released. She goes, talks to her mom, and her mom and her decide that joining Job Corps is probably the best idea for her because they couldn't afford to put her in college, but she needed to find something to do with her life, especially since she dropped out of high school. She joins Job Corps to become a nurse technician. See, so she was able to, she could have had like a fucking killer job, right? Because she goes and learns how to be a nurse tech. In Job Corps is where she meets Tadaryl Shipp. Now he becomes her boyfriend, and together they start to explore the occult, which is a category of supernatural beliefs and practices which generally fall outside the scope of an organized religion and science. It encompasses phenomena involving a hidden or secret agency such as magic or mysticism, and it can also refer to paranormal ideas such as extrasensory perception and parapsychology. And she also, with her boyfriend, started to do devil worshiping. Now, her boyfriend was actually known by like all the other kids in the Job Corps to already have been somebody who was a devil worshiper. So when they met and they started dating, he kind of like brought her into it. And her boyfriend was actually in school to be for their culinary arts program. So they weren't in the same classes, but again, you're like in a dorm. You live in like a dorm and you go to this school, which by the way, the Job Corps is like, I don't remember how far, but it's not very far from the University of Tennessee. It is now closed, the Job Corps is, but where it was, there is like a college town. There's University of Tennessee, and then there's like this Job Corps program. So they keep all these kids together and they go to these classes, basically. They learn all these things. So anyway, so they get involved in devil worshiping. And, there were some reports from people that said that she was like a super outgoing, popular girl. Everybody loved her. She had all these friends. They started to see some changes in how she acted and who she was after she started dating Tadaryl. Christa ends up having a problem with Colleen. Now, Colleen was her friend. They were friends. And she was like Christa Pike was small. One of her friends, ex-friends from Job Corps said she was like 95 pounds. Like she was small. She's a little tiny girl. And she has all these friends. And Colleen is actually one of them. Colleen, because she's friends with Christa and all these other people, she also knows Tadaryl. They all kind of hang out. Christa starts to think that Colleen is trying to steal Tadaryl from her. And she thinks this because one day they walk into the school. Colleen's walking by. Tadaryl's walking the other direction. They see each other. She waves. He waves back. Off they go. And Christa turns to her friend and says, "Oh my fucking God, Colleen is trying to steal Tadaryl." And her friend was like, "No, I don't think so. That's not really how." No. They get into it. And it's like a long list of things that happen. Like there's a documentary that I watched. And it's like there's one point where Colleen's room gets completely ransacked and like destroyed. And they all know that Christa had something to do with it. And at one point, Christa confronts Colleen and she's like, "You fucking, you're trying to steal my boyfriend. Stay the fuck away from him." And Colleen's response was, "I don't want your boyfriend. I don't want your boyfriend. He's not my type. I don't go for guys like him." Now, that triggered this weird fucking spiral. Christa took that as she doesn't date black men. So she goes to like all of her friends, the whole fucking school, and she's like, "Colleen is a racist piece of shit. She wouldn't date Tadaryl, da 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 da." And even her friends, even Christa's friends were like, "I don't think that's what she meant. I think what she meant was she wouldn't date somebody who was devil worshiping. She wouldn't date somebody who acted the way that Tadaryl did." That's what it had nothing to do with his skin color. But Christa took it like tenfold. She spreads all these rumors. Well, then they have a bunch of interactions, and it gets to a point where Colleen goes to like it's not the dean of students, but she goes to like the head person of the Job Corps and basically says like, "I need to file a complaint against Christa because she's like harassing me. She thinks I want to steal her boyfriend. I don't have proof, but I'm pretty sure she's the one who like completely destroyed my room." So they talk to Christa. And then they're like, "Okay, hold on. We're going to talk about this. We're going to let you know." So they tell her, "We're not going to suspend you, but this is your final warning." Because apparently prior to this, she had been in trouble for other items, other things. And they said, "This is like the last chance. You have already gotten in trouble multiple times. This is your final warning. If you do anything else from here on out, you're done. You're kicked out of the program." So Chris was like, "Fine." Well, somehow, someway, this was not in any of the research, but it was in the documentary. At some point, Christa leaves Job Corps for a couple of months. And I don't know if it was because I think what they had said is she said she was taking like a break from being there. So she leaves. Well, when she comes back, she's like a totally different person. Everybody's like, "Oh, she's so nice. Like she has no problems with Colleen. Her and Colleen looked like they squashed things. She even smiled at her. Everything seems fine." So they kind of let it go. Well, Christa then ends up talking to Daryl and her friend Shadala Peterson, and they come up with a plan. And their plan is to lure Colleen into an isolated, like abandoned, woodsy, steam planty area that was near the University of Tennessee campus. And what they were going to do is they were going to tell her like, hey, let's hang out. Like we used to be friends. Let's do this. And so Krista's like, this is what I want to do because she needs to stay the fuck away from Tadaryl. So Tadaryl and Shadala are like, okay, cool. So on January 12th, 1995, Christa, Tadaryl, Shadala, and Colleen, they all sign out of the dorm because you have to sign in and out. And they went into the woods. Now, they had told Colleen, hey, do you want to come with us? We're going to go get a movie. We'll have a movie night. Let's get back to like how we used to be. And she's like, cool, yeah. So Christa tells that to Colleen. Well, as they're getting ready to leave, Tadaryl and Shadala just happen to show up and they're like, hey, where are you guys going? And Krista's like, oh, we're going to go get a movie, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, can we come with? And she's like, yeah, sure. So the four of them, they go out. Well, before they go to the movie store, probably Blockbuster, they said, hey, let's stop in the woods and smoke a joint. Like, this is a peace offering. Like, we're trying to make our friendship work. Let's get high. And Colleen's like, yeah, okay, cool. As soon as they get into the woods, Colleen is attacked by Christa and Tadaryl. Now, Shadala was the lookout. She didn't actually physically harm Colleen at all. But she was an accomplice. And so Colleen was taunted. She was beaten. She was slashed with knives. She had a pentagram carved in her chest. And all of this took about 30 minutes total. And she was alive. And at the end of it, Christa actually takes a piece of asphalt and smashes her skull, which is what kills Colleen. After she died is when they carved the pentagram. So after she was dead, they carved this pentagram in her chest. And then they actually took like her clothes and they like spread them out throughout the woods, like trying to kind of, I don't even know what that would have done. Maybe confuse people. I don't know. The next morning, these people are walking kind of like down this pathway near these woods. And this lady kind of looks at the ground and she's like, with her husband, she's an older woman. And she's like, that kind of looks like blood. And he's like, nah, it's fine. And then they just kind of go on their merry way. Well, then a groundskeeper who was like taking care of the University of Tennessee, he actually sees like this weird thing in the woods. He can kind of see it on the ground. And he thought it was a dead animal. So he went out there because he was going to dispose of it. And he realizes that it's a girl. And he knows this because the upper half of her body is nude and she's covered in multiple cuts and bruises. Her head had been bludgeoned in and her neck was slashed. So he calls the police. The police immediately start interviewing and they discover, like as they're interviewing, first of all, they thought it was a University of Tennessee student because it was so close to University of Tennessee. So that's where they start. And then they got a phone call. The police actually ended up getting a phone call from a mom whose daughter was in Job Corps. And because it had now hit the news that like there was a body found. And I think on the news, they even talked about like the pentagram being carved in the chest and things like that. And they were telling the students like, stay vigilant, lock your doors, don't go out, use the buddy system, blah, blah, blah. And because they don't know what's going on. And so this mom calls and she's like, I'm terrified right now. She goes, because my daughter is in Job Corps. And I happen to know for a fact that there is a group of kids there that are devil worshipers at the Job Corps. Have you talked to them? Because this is really scary. And she's like, also, I haven't been able to talk to my daughter. So I don't even know, like, is it her? So she's like freaked out. So they get the daughter's name. They go to the Job Corps. Her daughter's fine. She's in her dorm. She calls her mom. They talk. But this leads them to start going, okay, well, maybe we should check out Job Corps. So the first thing the police officer does is he goes to like the security people and he's like, do you guys have like a sign in, sign out, log in, log out sheet for when people come and go? And they said, yeah. He said, can I see your sheet from, last couple nights? So they show it. And as they're looking, they see Colleen Smith, Tadaryl Shipp, Shadala Peterson, and Christa Pike all checked out one of the times, but only 3 of them checked back in. Yeah. He was like, okay, well, this is kind of weird. Let's have a conversation. So they start talking to people. As they're talking to people, multiple students actually tell the police like, hey, you should check on Christa Pike because Christa used to have a problem with Colleen. Because at this point, they're not 100% sure it's Colleen, but they're pretty sure because she's the only one that is missing at this point. They're like, she at one point said she was going to kill Colleen because she was jealous of her boyfriend or whatever. They go on and they start talking to other people. They end up talking to one of Krista's really good friends. And they were like, so question, do you think Christa or anybody might have had something to do with this? And she was like, well, I don't know, because the other night Christa came in my room. She was like really like on cloud nine, super fucking happy, just like jumping all over the place, super happy. And she was like, I did it. And the girl was like, what, you did what? And she goes, I killed Colleen. I did it. And she was laughing and smiling and thought it was a great time. And she goes, and I thought she was bullshitting. And she was like, okay, yeah, whatever. No, you didn't. And she goes, really? She goes, I have a surprise for you. And she reaches in her pocket and pulls out a piece of Colleen's skull and shows it to her and says, this is her
Also,
skull.
that motherfucker didn't report that.
I know, right?
Like,
well, here's why.
The fuck?
Here's why. So she just shows this piece of skull to her and says, I did it. Look, this is even a piece of her skull. Okay, so right there, this girl's obviously like sick to her stomach, terrified, because Colleen is her friend too. And she's just staring at her and she goes, okay, I just wanted to tell you, I love you. If you tell anybody, I'll kill you too. Bye. And walks out of the room. So at that point, you're figuring these are 16, 17, 18, 19-year-old kids. You just witnessed somebody killing somebody, and she just said that if you tell, you're going to get killed. I'm sure she was scared. But when the cops come knocking, she tells them the truth. Christa actually did take a piece of her skull. And what she did is, after she had bashed her head in, she actually took that box cutter that they used to carve the pentagram and cut a piece of her skull out and kept it in her pocket, which she has been compared to by some people. Even though she's not a serial killer, she was actually compared to John Wayne Gacy because she kept her piece of her skull like a prize, right? That's like a serial killer thing. Most people don't do that. So now students tell the police that her friend tells them that she sees the skull. Other students have said, no, like she showed me a piece of like this thing and said it was the skull of Colleen. So multiple students corroborate this. 36 hours after the body's found, all three people are arrested. So Christa, Shadala, and Tadero are all arrested. As they're interviewing and talking to her, she does actually end up confessing to torturing and killing Colleen, but she does tell them that she didn't mean to kill her. Like, that wasn't the plan. Now, the way they get this going is because police are talking to Christa and she's denying, no, I didn't do anything. No, yeah, we went with her, but she left somewhere else, And the police finally look at her and go, well, just so you know, Shadala is literally 2 doors down, and she's already told us that you and Todero killed, because Shadala did. Shadala immediately was like, I did not kill this girl. I was terrified. Christa is a scary fucking person. I'm scared of her. The whole goddamn school's scared of her. And she had me come. I didn't know this is what they were doing. And then when they started kicking her and hitting her and punching her and stabbing her, I just stood there because I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I just stared to make sure nobody could find us, because that's all I could do. Once they tell her this, she's like, fine, whatever. Yeah, I did it. Then they ask her, do you have is there a chance that you have a piece of her skull? Because we've been told this story that you are showing people that you killed her and that you took a piece of her skull. And she's like, no, I don't have a piece of her skull. And they're like, okay, cool. So they're like, stand up, we're going to take you back and we're going to search you. And they search her jacket and they find the piece of Christa's skull in her jacket. Now, they also, when they're searching her room, they find blood and mud-stained jeans in her room. Now, she continued to say, it was never our intention to kill her. I just wanted to scare her because I wanted her to stay away from Tadero. But it honestly just got out of hand. Like, once it started, it's like I couldn't stop. That's what she kept saying. This does go to trial. Christa Pike's attorneys argue that she has a diminished mental capacity and that is what caused her to murder. So they're trying to use the excuse that she doesn't have the total wherewithal in her brain, and that's what caused her to murder somebody. Dr. Eric Ingham, he actually testified that Christa did have severe borderline personality disorder, did have a dependency on cannabis, and did have depression. However, she did not have any symptoms of brain injury or insanity, which is one of the big things that they tried to push, is that they were trying to say that she was born with a brain injury and that this is why she killed, or that she was insane at the time, which she was found neither of those. Now, it was also testified by Dr. William Burnett. He's an expert in Satanism. Now, he claimed that there were satanic elements to the killing, but it was more like an adolescent who was dabbling in Satanism more than a satanic sacrifice or like a true satanic crime. So his point was, not only does she not have a brain injury, not only is she not insane, but she can't even claim that this had to do with Satanism, because that's not even really how Satanism or satanic rituals would have worked, because it wasn't all the things. There was a push to show that she had suffered a traumatic childhood. So they brought up abuse and physical, sexual abuse. They brought up neglect. They talked about how she lost her grandmother at a young age. They talked about how she suffered seizures as a child. They brought all these things up. But in the end, Christa Pike was found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to death by electrocution. She was also found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and was given a 25-year sentence. Shadala Peterson, she became a state witness and she pled guilty to accessory after the fact since she didn't actually physically touch her.
Crime.
And she received 6 years probation. So she didn't go to jail at all. We'll see. We'll see how that... I'm not going to say anything negative about it because I don't know if they would have got Christa Pike 100% without her witnessing. There is something to be said for people. It's like when you have somebody who you view as an authoritative figure telling you to do stuff, it's literally the same as Nazi Germany. There's a bunch of psychology tests on this. Sometimes you just do things that you know are wrong, right? So she still got 6 years probation. She got in trouble, but she didn't get jail time.
But it's also one of those things where like she didn't
it's
do hard because like she was the lookout. Like, yeah, right. She could have totally ratted their asses out. She could have ratted him out. Happened.
But also think about it this way. If you're scared, what was she going to do? Jump in front of the box?
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if true jail time would have been beneficial for her because she didn't actually commit the crime.
Right.
She was there as like the watch out, the lookout, and she fucking ratted them out when they got caught.
Yeah.
She, decided to be a witness. Like, it's not like she was like, nope, I'm keeping my mouth shut. Like, she fucking
she did it. Which, fair. Now, to Daryl Shipp, he was only 17 when this happened. Therefore, he was convicted of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder, but he received a life sentence, and he's actually eligible for parole in 2026. But the reason he didn't get the death penalty, like Christa Pike, is because he was 17. So he was too young. Now, Christa Pike has appealed her sentence a few different times, and there's also been a push for clemency because of her upbringing, her mental health issues, brain injuries, all that stuff. They don't want her sentence to be forgiven, but they want her to be taken off of death row and serve a life sentence. That's what they want. That's what the push for clemency is. And also, I think she's actually out of appeals. So normally they go to clemency when they can no longer appeal, because you only can appeal a certain amount of times. So she appealed, they all got denied. So now there's a push for clemency, which is typically given by the governor of Tennessee, for instance. That's who would give clemency. Her original execution date was set for August 19th, 2002, but she filed an appeal in July of 2002, which postponed her execution. Then in December of 2008, she requested a new trial. That was denied. In 2014, she submitted another appeal, and this time it was to have her taken off of death row. The claims were that she was only 18 when she was sentenced to death, and there isn't much difference between 18 and 17 like to Daryl, which I kind of agree with. If I'm being 100% honest right now, a 17-year-old's brain and an 18-year-old's brain is really not, it's not like you turn 18, you're like, fucking A, I'm an adult. That's not how it works. So I can understand.
No, but it's just the legal standards.
It's the legal standards. But I can understand that push for she doesn't deserve death row because she was only 18. And you said a 17-year-old is too young to have the death penalty. There's not a hard line in your brain like there is when you turn 25, right? So between the ages of 24 and 25, there's actually been some scientific proof that your brain is not fully developed to your 25, which means the decisions you make after the age of 25 can't be argued that you were too young. You could probably argue that, because I will tell you, when I was 18 years old, well, I was pregnant. Let's do this. When I was 17 and 18, before I got pregnant, I was doing some shit that I would never fucking want my kids to do. And it was stupid as fuck, dumb as shit. And if there were cell phones to record my life, I'd be in jail. So I know that at 18 years old, I did not kill anybody, but I know at 18 years old, I wasn't making the smartest decisions either. So I can understand that, actually. She also said that she had suffered years of abuse and suffered from mental health conditions, which is the other reason why she's like, well, listen, I shouldn't be put to death because I made a fucking mistake. Okay. In 2018, this appeal was denied. So all these things have been denied. So now currently, right now, actually, there has been a push to ask for clemency. The claim is that she was too young and her brain was not fully developed. So in the part of your brain that is not developed till you're almost 25 is the impulse control part of your brain, which means quick decision making. Okay. This is why if you go in and rob like a 7-Eleven and you're 15 years old, this is why they use the excuse of your brain was not developed enough. Because if you shoot and kill someone, if you go in and rob a 7-Eleven and the guy that you're robbing is like refusing to give you money, if you're 25 or older, a lot of the times your brain will go, okay, well, fuck, what do I do? And you'll just like scream and yell and scare them more because you're not going to like kill somebody over fucking $50. But a 15-year-old will pull the trigger because their brain doesn't quite comprehend the actual outcomes of what's going to happen. That's like the defense for it, right? So that's their point, is that she killed this girl. She was 18 years old, but she got out of hand. She couldn't stop herself. Her impulse control was not developed enough for her to actually just scare the girl. That's kind of what their push was. That could be a real thing. I'm not saying that it's not. They also point out that she had suffered emotional and physical abuse, which turned her into the person she was going to be, and that she herself has even stated that she is a different person now than she was 25 years ago. I think anybody can look at, if you're like in your 30s and 40s, anybody can look back and go, I'm a different person than I was 25 years ago. Every person in the world is different than they were when they were 18. However, okay, so I read all this stuff and I was kind of like, fuck, like I mixed on this. I mixed on the death penalty thing for her because she was very young. She was like the youngest woman in the United States to ever be sentenced to death. What she did was fucking horrific. But I can understand the argument of her just like not fucking being mature enough to figure it out, right? I can understand that argument. I could understand it. And they got me a little bit of like, well, maybe she doesn't deserve death. Maybe she should just be put in jail for life, no parole, just forever live in jail. However, there were a few things that I found out that make people, as myself, question these push for clemency. So first off, she wrote a letter to Daryl shortly after she was found guilty and sentenced. So yes, she was still 18. However, this letter kind of makes me go, And it said, "Please write me. I miss you so much. You see what I get for trying to be nice to the hoe? I went ahead and bashed her brains out so she'd die quickly instead of letting her bleed to death and suffer more, and they fucking fry me. Ain't that some shit? Please write me and tell me what you're feeling. Also, tell your lawyer if he wants me to testify you, I will. Love you for the rest of my life, little devil." So that changes a little bit on my mind of how I feel about her impulse control, because why are you writing that? Because you're pissed off that you killed somebody and you got the death penalty. Okay, cool. This is where it all changed for me. So even there, I was kind of like, fuck, like she's just like an 18-year-old kid. In 2004. Okay, so 2004. I don't fucking do math. I don't know. How old was she in 2004? Let's see. She was 18 in 1995. 27. Is that right? Am I wrong? Am I right?
Sure.
Okay, we'll just say she's in her 20s.
Yeah.
She's well after the fucking 25-year-old not knowing what the fuck's going on, impulse brain control thing shutting down, right? Or closing up. So in 2004, Christa is convicted for attempting to murder a fellow inmate. And what she did was she tried to strangle this woman named Patricia Jones with a shoestring. Now, at first, when I read this, I was like, okay, but it's jail. Maybe she was like standing up for herself, blah, blah, blah.
Taking out the big dog.
Yeah, fuck it. I've said that. I have fucking said that. I've said if I ever have to go to prison, the first thing I'm doing is trying to pick a fight with the biggest motherfucker there so that people know not to fuck with me. Period. If I die doing it, I fucking die doing it. That's just how I feel my life would be. I'm not going to, whatevs. However, a few days after the attack, because the fucking prison phones are recorded, they have a recording of her talking to her mom. And she says, while laughing, "I wrapped that shoestring around her and tried to choke the life out of her. She was passed out on the ground, mama, twitching, foaming at the mouth. Her eyeballs was bugged out so far her eyelids are flipped up." You fucking lost me. You lost me on even thinking for a second that you don't deserve death. Because you murdered somebody when you were 18, You tried to murder somebody in 2004 when you were like 27 years old, and you fucking laughed about it to your mom. I don't have any sympathy for you anymore. And finally, in 2012, she was also involved in an escape attempt plan with a New Jersey inmate, which is so weird because she was in Tennessee. She's in Tennessee, so that's weird. She was never actually charged with the attempted murder or the attempted escape case. However, the guy that she was trying to escape with was, and a corrections officer was also fired and charged. So now at this point, Christa has exhausted any and all options of appeals, and she is currently still on death row. She is housed at Deborah K. Rehabilitation Center under a maximum security. She was the youngest woman to ever be sentenced to death, and if she is executed, she will be the first woman to be executed in the state of Tennessee in 200 years, which is a really long time. However, there is not currently an execution date set for her. And Colleen's mom says that she is still waiting for Christa Pike to be put to death so that she can have closure for herself. And she said, honestly, my heart breaks every single day because I keep reliving it and reliving it. I just want this to happen before I die. Otherwise, nobody will see justice. And that's Christa Pike. So what do you think? It honestly, it's very conflicting. I mean, it is, but it's not.
I think it's whatever would be a worser life for her. So if she's somebody that's scared to die, then she needs to be put to death. If she's somebody that's not scared to die and basically would be like, don't fucking care, then maybe you should rot in, prison. But then you also put I'm not saying the other prisoners are good because they're obviously there for a reason, but clearly the other prisoners are also at risk. Right. So if anything, your ass should be in fucking solitary for the rest of your life.
Right.
Where you basically
she has
go
been.
Crazy.
That was the other thing is I did read, because there's a website. Okay, there is a website that is dedicated. It's called Christa's Story, and it's called mercyforchrista.org. Now, this is Christa Pike, the murderer. So I'm not telling you to go and try to donate, or I'm not saying, what I'm saying is this is where I found some of her clemency stuff at, right? On there, they have a list of all these reasons why she needs to be taken off death row. One of them is that she has been in solitary confinement, I believe they said, for like the last 15 years.
And she deserves to be there.
I agree with that, because
it's
you are a danger.
Or
right.
Stay there the rest of your life to where you basically go fucking crazy.
And that's the one thing they said is that she's mentally not handling being in solitary. Well, maybe you shouldn't try to kill your fellow inmates, for one. But for two, I'm not as conflicted as I was, the previous guy that we did, where he was in drug psychosis, yada, 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 deserve second chances. She had a second chance when she was in jail and she tried to kill somebody. And even then, at when I was reading that, I was like, well, maybe she was just, again, self-defense. You're in prison. You got to handle your own shit. But to find out that she gloated about it to her mom, everybody who's been in contact with her that's not pro Christa has said she's never once apologized for killing Colleen. She doesn't show any remorse for killing Colleen. She didn't show any remorse for trying to kill the Patricia woman. So the fact that she's able to kill these people and not feel bad. And then the biggest thing for me was, even though she was 18 years old, she still took a piece of the skull and then gloated about it. That's not impulse control. Impulse control is quick last minute decisions of what you're going to do. What do I do? What do I do? But when you continue to live on that high and you actually feel a high off of it, that's a whole scarier situation.
And it makes me wonder if she wouldn't have gotten caught and gone to prison if
she would have been a serial killer.
Yeah, because she tried to kill somebody again.
I know.
And gloated
people
about
who make her mad. Although they did say with the Patricia woman, they were never able to prove it, but they believe that she had an accomplice, not somebody who actually did it, but somebody who pushed her to do it, who was also a woman who is in jail right now in Knoxville for killing a child, satanic ritual style. So again, it's like a devil worshiping thing, which maybe that is really what it is, but still, you're 27 years old. You can't play the game of I lost control, impulse control, blah, blah, blah. You can't use that excuse.
See, but the other thing that I have a hard time with is I understand the whole brain and the closure and all that shit, but when I was 18 years old,
well, murdering is wrong.
Right.
But the thing is yes, right from wrong. The thing is, this is why for me it's like, I understand the impulse control thing. It is a real thing. However, Normally, when you have somebody who goes to jail for something that they're trying to claim was an impulse control problem, they're very fucking remorseful. They feel like absolute shit
in jail.
And they're trying to better themselves, and they're very apologetic. They're not laughing about it. They're not writing letters to their boyfriend saying, oh, they're going to fucking fry me. They're not going to do it again because it's impulse control. You cannot continue to blame impulse control for something like that. And the abuse thing. Abuse is fucking horrific. It's terrible. But we cannot use somebody's abuse of their past as as a reason to excuse what they did. You can explain to me that she was abused, and I would believe it 100%. You can explain to me that she had a terrible life. I would believe it. You cannot look at me and say, well, she's abused, so therefore she should not have to go. She should not be in solitary confinement and in death row and all these things because she was abused. I don't care. There's a lot of people abused in this world, and they don't turn around and kill somebody.
Well, it's just like you and I talked about, like the Mendez brothers.
Yeah.
Like
they
still needed to, they
had
committed
to be
a crime.
yeah, they did.
They needed to do what they needed to do. However, I also in a way have like a soft spot for them and feel like if somebody like Gypsy Rose can be out of prison,
yeah, I agree.
Then they deserve to be out of prison.
I agree.
But her,
So the Menendez brothers thing that's really crazy is I've watched multiple documentaries on it, and the claims of the sexual abuse that they had by the hands of their father is fucking, like, it is so awful. And the fact that these kids, I mean, they killed their father and their mother. Now their mother, they claimed, knew what was going on. Their father was a high, I forgot what the word is. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but he was well known in the community. I think he was actually in Hollywood, which Hollywood fucking P. Diddy alone tells you everything you need to know about everything that's going on in Hollywood and music industry. But those kids, they are full-fledged, like, old ass men now. And I have always, when it first happened, I was like, holy shit, crazy. But the more that you research it, the more you look into it, the more you find out it is one of those things that you're like, well, Jesus, like, how is that not self-defense? And I do want to point out that there is, in certain states, there are states where you can actually kill somebody because of what they've done to you, and it's considered self-defense. For those two boys, they are traumatized for the rest of their life. They killed their families. They had no other outs in their mind. And I agree with you. If somebody like Gypsy Rose can be out of prison, she did not single-handedly kill her mother, yes, but she definitely planned it.
Well,
I know there's rumors, but I'm just saying if somebody who she put that in motion, and you could always,
she was the ringleader behind
she was, and you could always argue she had access to the internet. She had access to, because that's how she talked to her boyfriend. At any point, she could have called 911, talked to her dad, asked her boyfriend to get the cops. She chose to murder. And so if she can,
very, very, very good manipulator.
She is a manipulator. I personally believe that she's a manipulator, but that is just my personal opinion on her. The Menendez brothers, you know what I think? At least I think they deserve a new trial. That's what I think. I'm not going to say they deserve to be out of jail because at the end of the day, they did kill two people. But I will say, I think that they deserve a new trial. And I think the evidence needs to be brought out again. Because when they went to jail way back in the day, it was not a thing for self-defense against sex abusers. It is now, which is why I think they deserve a second trial, because now the laws have changed a little bit to where they might actually not be in jail.
There's a lot of people that feel that way.
Oh, I do too. And so it's like that. But see, that's why when I was reading and doing the research on Christa Pike in the beginning, I was like, well, shit, maybe she does deserve a second chance just to be in jail. Like, she killed somebody in cold blood. It wasn't a self-defense thing, but she was a young kid doing stupid shit. I don't ever want people to know half the shit I did as a fucking teenager, because it was not okay. I think most people my age feel that way. We did a lot of most of us did a lot of really shitty stuff. So I felt for her. But when I saw the letter she wrote to Daryl, and then I saw that she tried to murder somebody again, when she's 27, you lose me, because you can't keep using the excuse.
Not even the whole trying to murder somebody else at 27. Because we don't know the details. It could have been self-defense. But it's the simple fact that not once but twice now, where you did complete a murder and then did attempted murder on somebody else, you gloated about
Yeah.
it twice.
Yeah, you gloat about it and you make it funny.
You make it seem like it's a fucking joke and
Yeah.
that it's a good time.
Yeah. As far as Shadala goes, I have nothing to say about her because I don't know what it would have been like to be in her position. So I would never say anything bad about her. And even Tadaro, to be honest with you, Tadaro has a life sentence. He's eligible for parole in 2026, and it would not shock me if he gets out. Why? Because he was 17 years old. And depending on how he's been in prison, I wouldn't be shocked if he gets out of prison.
Well, and also we don't know like the full
But he's
details of the case. Like,
Well, and
was
he's
she
not-
the majority?
She was, and he's not the one who killed her.
Right.
Christa killed her, and that was the other thing is.
Another like accomplice.
But
type
they both got
situation.
the same charges though. He got first degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder because they did plan this. So they both got that. But I'm sitting here going, he was 17 at the time, and I don't think he was trying to kill Colleen. The other thing is the police officer that actually interrogated them on the documentary, he had said when he talked to Christa about Colleen's death, she was like crying, but like almost tears of joy. She was like hyped up. You could tell she was excited reliving it. Like you could tell she was like reliving the murder. When he talked to Daryl said, I didn't know we were going to kill her. Like there was no plan. We were supposed to go and scare her because Christa doesn't want her talking to me. And then he had asked him, he said, who carved the pentagram on her chest? And his response was, we both did. And he said, you both did. And he said, I drew half and she drew half. But he was very much like stone cold. Like he wasn't happy about it. Like he wasn't excited.
Right.
And that was the other thing that the cop had said is he was just like, there was just a difference in the interview process. And then that's when another cop was like, she's literally like John Wayne Gacy or like Ted Bundy because she kept a piece of her. Which is no, I don't give a fuck what's your impulse control. That is not a normal impulse control. I'm like, I'm going to kill this person and cut their skull out. No.
And you didn't just gloat about it to one fucking person. You basically
You
went
told
around the whole
everybody.
entire campus and
you were
was
very
like,
proud of
"Hey."
yourself. Yeah. And part of it was,
And you threatened to kill those other people if they
Yep.
told anybody.
and I'm going to put myself on blast here for a minute. I didn't kill anybody. However, I can understand that. And the reason I can understand that is because when I was growing up in high school, my brother was like this person that everybody was afraid of. So when I went into high school, I was younger than him. And when I was a sophomore, he was a senior. And when people found out that I was his brother, I had this weird fucking power.
Sister, but okay.
That's what I meant. Sister. When people found out that we were related, I got this weird fucking power of being like untouchable at school. And it made it to where like I stood up for my everything. I stood up for my friend. The teachers fucking didn't like me because they thought I was like my brother. So I was like, cool, I'll just be like my brother. And we ran that school. And then he graduated and I still ran that school for another 3 years.
See, and this is why I set up good for my brother. I was in there. I was a little goody two shoes, followed the rules. Teachers really liked me. They came in, saw our last name, and was like, oh, you're related to Sierra?
You
Yeah,
did.
she's my sister.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Golden fucking years
It
of
was
high
true,
school, man.
No, but I'm just saying I understand her gloating and showing people because when people are afraid of you, it's like our dog, Oreo, one of our dogs. If you show her you're afraid, she like eats it up. That's how it is.
I think
man.
she'd be a murderer.
You feel like, yeah, she would. She'd be a murderer with a thug ass accent.
First of all, she's gonna be 11 next year.
She'd be the godfather, but the godmother.
Yeah, she's gonna be 11 next year, and she's
old, but
she's
she's
an old
rough.
girl.
She's rough around the edges. But no, I mean, I can understand why she went around the school and shared this shit with people because why? Because people were already afraid of her. And now she's showing people that she actually killed somebody, which makes everybody even more terrified. And that's like a high, not killing people, but like I can honestly tell you growing up in high school, it felt really, really good, especially for me. One particular one that always stands out in my mind because I was not a bully. I will say I was not a bully, but there was a younger freshman and he was like kind of a nerdy kid. And a bunch of kids literally like in the movies, knocked the books out of his fucking hands as he's walking down the hallway. And he drops them all and they start laughing. And I fucking lost my shit on them. And they fucking picked up his books and helped him back up. Why? Because I fucking told them to. The way that it feels when we are able to look at somebody and tell them to do something, it's like a weird fucking feeling. So it's one of those things that I understand why she did that. I can completely understand because it made people more scared of her, which made her even fucking higher in the power chain. But again, I can't understand how you can still do that when you're 27 years old. Because when I was 27 years old, I sure as hell wasn't doing that anymore. My brother and I talk all the time about how fucking awesome our high school time was, but there's no goddamn way I'd want to live my life like that now. I don't want people to be afraid of me. I don't want people to be afraid to talk to me. No fucking way.
No, you just don't want anybody to talk to you.
Oh, I fucking hate people with a passion, but but if you talk to me, I'm not going to be mean to you, right? But what it did do is it built a character in me a characteristic that I just not going to take your shit. It's fine. I just avoid people because I don't want to fucking deal with it. Anyways, this has gone way longer than I expected, but that was the story of Christa Pike and how I was conflicted until I found out that she's still a killer. So, I'm not so upset about it now, but we'll see. I mean, I'll find updates like, maybe one of these times I'll update and see if I can find anything about Taddaryl. I'm not going to fuck with Shadala because she got 6 years probation. She didn't go to jail. I don't think it's anybody's business to be intrusive into her life particularly, but Taddaryl's in jail. So I'm going to see, I'll see if he actually tries to get a parole or if he gets out, and I'll update you as we go. That is all I have for now. So I guess this is the part where I say, catch you on the flip side, bitches.
Bye.